Happy Friday, happy Friday. I am Chris, your favorite engineering, physical sciences, research, data services librarian, and your favorite information scientist in training. I'm a fourth year information science doctoral student, and my field is race, digital studies, and intersectionality, which means I often explore how people discuss race, use technology, in these internet streets. And definitely I'm a person that's always exploring what lessons, what insight we can learn when we're looking in the comment section, because I think that everyday people, when they're commenting on these websites, web pages, social networking sites and platforms, I think what they really think, what they really feel when they're down here with this is really what they think. And I can't prove it yet, but I do believe that ideas are connected to values, and values are connected to beliefs, and those, all three of those, are that connection, are things that people live out every single day in so many ways, for the good and the bad, for the positive and the negative, as well as for the ambiguity and the undecided. Yep. That's what I think. I can't prove it, but I really believe that. So this week, this is you watching the Wiley Report, and guess who I am? Wiley. So this week, this I do this video, I do this recording to chronicle my experiences as a librarian, to chronicleize my if that's even a word, to discuss my experiences as a doctoral student. Nothing that I'm saying is harms anyone. I am not making these comments to be unkind, nor am I making these comments to throw shade at people. All these comments are my own thoughts. Yeah, these are Chris's thoughts. Just trying to help the people or share information, because I think what I love most about learning is that it continues. There's always something to learn. There's always something to glean. There's always a way that you can improve yourself, either the knowledge that you have, you can share it with others, you can connect with others on ideas, because as a graduate student, and also in the library, it's always interesting to ask people what they're working on and listen to them tell you about and hear their excitement, or at least that's what I get out of it. I hear that they're really interested in this area, and you also learn that people are working on some fascinating things. For example, this week I went to the writing retreat. It was a intentionality decision to really work on my research, because with a lot of my job commitments fall in the spring, I have not been able to work on research. Also, as a person who's in the doctoral program, I want to take my preliminary exam. And to finish the doctoral program, that means you have to do a dissertation proposal and a dissertation defense. So I'm at the stage of working on the dissertation proposal. And summer is slower in the library. It's when people work on, or at least a lot of people I know work on their research. So I wanted to be intentional about making this month the month in which I really focus on my research. And so I was proud of myself this week for doing that, because I went to the writing retreat. It was 5 days a week. It was sponsored by the writing center at my university, and it offered an option to go in person to the Orange Room or meet on Zoom. I like the fact that the people that came were both a mix of faculty and graduate students. I like that they gave prompts, questions to open you up to think about your writing, whether you're working on your dissertation proposal, the actual dissertation, or you're working on an article or something else, because you had a mix of people there that were working on dissertation proposals, actual dissertations. You have faculty that were working on articles, and you have faculty that were working on their promotional materials, to move from associate to full. So it was a great mix to to hear people talk about what they're working on, because people get excited about what it is that they're working on. It's what it is that they want, they're pursuing, what it is they're trying to explore, because to me, those are the fascinating things about research, is what you get to find out, and do your findings go along with what you thought. For me, it is a new experience to also work on a dissertation proposal, because most of my experience, the majority of the articles that I have published out, are articles that were either individual co-authored work, doing focus groups, content analysis, policy studies, interviews. And while there's similarities, none of those articles are the same thing, or at least for me, it doesn't feel the same process for me to do a dissertation proposal. So I was working on my problem statement, and also I used the time to work on other research ideas that I have been working on but have not had time to focus on. And it was a really interesting experience, because I think whenever you're writing anything new, or you're doing something that you've never done in this way before, you're really battling your nervous system, because and maybe some levels of imposter syndrome, because especially if it's an area in which you've never really explored before. And I think about that a lot, about how, I think about this in the context of what it was like to be untenured in the library and working on research, and you have people that you admire greatly, because in your mind they represent the GOATs, the greatest of all time in research. And that's how I feel about a lot of researchers. They are the GOATs. And I know they're regular humans with lives, with flaws, with great things about them, or maybe in many ways I only see them in the light of when you see them at the conference, or when you see them and you've read their work. And I do my best not to fan out, but it's hard, so I have to learn to calm down, because for me it's exciting to meet the researcher that you read everything that they said about this subject, or you admire their work, and not just the number of publications, but the discipline that it takes to that you learn about when you're writing to publish. You admire that, and then the way that they talk about a subject, you can sometimes admire how they form language, how they think. That's the part that's really interesting to me. So I'm awfully deeply interested in that. So I remember, as an untenured librarian, when you're trying to start the writing process and you see all these other people that they have workout, and you're like, you want to be like them. You want to have workout too, or you admire the number of publications that they have out, and you're like, oh, I want to be like that. Because I think in every field, in every industry, no matter what it is you want to do, you admire something of other people. And I'm not saying you're trying to be them, but you admire their growth, you admire their longevity, you admire their achievement. Nothing is wrong with that. So I was just thinking about how when I was first writing, it was really hard, because while you're doing your topic, you're thinking about comparing yourself to other people, or thinking about other people's experiences, only to realize that your experience is yours, their experience is theirs. They can tell you about it, and they can provide you insight should they choose to, yet it is still you in that article, you and that project. So you take that information that you gleaned from them, either that they shared with you, or that you've observed or found through your own research process, and you apply that to writing. So this week, like I said, I was working on my problem statement. It was one of the aspects of things that I was working on. And it felt daunting, because where I found myself going within my dissertation proposal is areas in which are real names, real faces, real lives, lived experiences that are in close proximity to who I am. And that to me is different than some of my other work, because in my other work, when, for example, I'm using, when I think about data management practices, I did studies where I talked with the STEM faculty about their data management practices with their current research. In many ways, when I was doing that work, it felt extremely objective, because I am not an engineer. And although learning this benefits me because it allows me to better, do my position of serving engineering faculty and students, I don't necessarily have, and I do not have, engineering experience in industry or as a faculty person in that discipline to make me biased, or I don't have that shared level of knowledge that they have. Everything that I have learned about what it is that they do is based on studying the information resources that they have within their field. It's knowing other engineers and hearing them talk about their job or their position. And while some of that information is similar, it is also not the same, but I am an outsider. However, in this work, it can feel really really personal, because I'm battling, do I go along with that of making my dissertation something that is in close proximity to my own lived experience? How do you remain objective? How do you talk with others when you're conducting this study in ways that are ethical, in ways that honor them, in ways that are not exploitive to their experience? Because one of the things I've always felt, no matter what it is that I've studied, and in the context of my podcast work, I never want to harm other people, because I realize that people in everyday life, whether we know them or not, have wounds and scars that me, you, us did not cause. And I never want anything that I ever attempt to do or say to cause further harm to people. I want to be useful, and I want to be effective, and I want to be helpful. So, yes, I want to do this study, and I'm interested in where this is going to lead, but I'm not trying to harm you. I'm not trying to re-traumatize you. I'm not trying to scar you further just because I want to do this study. And so, you're thinking about all of that as you're sitting there with a blank piece of paper, and you're working on your problem statement. At least that was my experience. The best things that I got out of this experience this week was working with others. I realized I need structure in my life, so having structured writing time is great. Also, body doubles. Body doubling, meaning, it means something to me when you look up on the Zoom room, or you look up in the room and there are other people that are there that are writing too, because then when you get distracted, or you're getting ready to look at a YouTube video, or whatever it is you're getting ready to scroll, there are other people around you that are typing, that are doing something too. I don't know if that necessarily means that they're not distracted too. I don't think so. I'm not on their screen, but it helped, and I'm not judging. I'm just saying it was just very helpful for me to learn how important and significant body doubling is. And also realizing too that, theoretical conceptual work has value, is insightful. I already know that. There's no shade to that. I just think that human subject work is different in that context, because it's connected to real lives, real names, real faces. Whether they're still here or they're not, how do you honor people's experiences? How do you honor people's lives with the work in which you study? How do you deal with the fact that, when you're studying anything that's connected to human subjects, you can sometimes have emotions that come up, and how to handle that in a way that is still objective, that is still science, that is still, I'm trying to share this information, I'm trying to glean from this information, I'm trying to understand this based on a theoretical framework. And how can I be the best at doing that? And so that has been an interesting experience to think about. So I'm grateful for the university for having a writing retreat. I'm proud of myself for being intentional and having a Sunday plan and making sure that I went all 5 days, and that I did work on stuff. Also working on other projects that I've been, that are like posters, and now you're trying to make it into a paper, or we're a talk and trying to make it into a paper. It taught me that, moving forward, now that the writing retreat is over, I'm gonna need to, seek those same spaces in other ways. And I'm grateful that I think it's week after next, they still have the writing, not a retreat, but they have writing time. I think it's 9 to 12 Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm not sure. The facilitator did say that they were sending more information about it, or they had sent it in the information for today. But I definitely know that I want to keep that up, even if it's on the Zoom room, because I need that type of structure that helps, me keep at it. And I want to finish my proposal. I want to finish this groundwork for these other research projects, because I enjoy doing research. I enjoy exploring. I enjoy seeing, hearing other people's experiences and figuring out, what else new I can learn, or how everything that I learned, that's not what happened at all, So I'm open to whatever I find, and I really like that. And so that was the purpose today, to talk about my love of research, enjoying the exploration process, also realizing that it also feels like excavation when you're writing or conducting research that's close to your lived experiences. So I'm grateful. I'm also grateful for community, because I have to say, without the Writing Resource Center, and without, a supportive unit that encourages you to do your research, and they support that work, it could be a challenge. So I'm grateful for that. I'm also have to say shout out to Qual Scholars, which is a great community that I found out about, facilitated by Dr. Marvette Lacey, because they had a writing retreat. This was right before Memorial Day. That was really great to participate in. It features scholars all around the United States, body doubling, learning how to do a proposal. So, and it was centered around African American students. So I really appreciated that. And hey, that's what I'm doing, continuing to work and move forward. I'm excited. I feel like with the level of intentionality and discipline, I have no qualms about watching TV this weekend. Yep. A little bit. I got to do the lit review. I finished the problem statement, the who, what, where, when, and why, and how, but I do have to work on the outline of a literature review or whatever. So I feel more confident about that, because I have been editing my problem statement, and as I revised before I left work, I feel like, okay, now I see, which areas to cover. And I appreciate having committee members that encourage you and support you, because we don't talk enough about, I think oftentimes people talk about the concept of mentoring, and we don't talk about that enough. And I don't know if I'm going to add it, not because it's bad, but because I think a lot of times that in the library world, that comes up a lot in terms of mentoring other people. And it comes up too as a graduate student. And I think the reality is people have different connotations or different experiences or different meaning making. What that word means when I say mentor, and what you say when you say being mentored or to mentor, people often need to make sure that we're on the same page about what it is that we mean, to make sure that everybody is getting what it is they need. As a librarian, I can say, I was talking to a colleague about this earlier this week. As a librarian, I can say, when I was in the untenured experience, I definitely enjoyed and had the ability and appreciated the ability to reach out to others that were above and further ahead with you, that gave you great advice and insight and gave you the real talk in a way that still encouraged and empowered you. And then even after making tenure in the library, what I have appreciated is having people that you can go and say, this is what's happening, and I don't know the best response. What should I do? Or this is what happened. Am I going to get any or any problems going to happen from this? And I appreciate the faculty, colleagues, and the like that lend me their ear, their advice, and their insight, and they can be trusted. I appreciate that so much. I really do. And not just what I get out of that situation, but when I meet other librarians, no matter, who they are, where they are, I appreciate being in their confidence, the opportunity to hear what they're saying, and to listen, and to not blast them out in any way, because I just think, the best thing that we can do in our lives is listen to others, to encourage, empower, and support others in all the ways that we know how. I think if we are people, when you have some level of privilege or some level of power, I think it is the job to help those who don't have power, because why else would you give me power? That's my thought. That's me. That's what I think. I don't judge people or have any qualms if people have a different idea of how that should go. But I definitely remember thinking for a long time that I think that whenever anybody gets any power, no matter what job, no matter what institution, no matter what you're at, your focus is to help those that don't have the voice that you have, that don't have the influence that you have, that don't have the impact that you have. How do you remove the barrier for other people? And hey, you have to own the fact that in some ways you may or may not be able to do that, and that's cool too. Because if you're incapable in the sense that it's not possible, not that you just lackadaisical about it, or you're just a person that doesn't care about that. I mean, saying if within whatever role you're in, you're unable to do that, that's understandable too. Because I think institutionally and within certain roles, there are times when you can't, even if you wanted to, you can't remove a barrier. You can't. You may or may not. You may, or I won't say can't. I'll say you may or may not be able to do that. And how will you handle that in that situation? I think then you have a choice. Well, okay, can I go get somebody to help in this situation if I'm not the person to remove the barrier? If it's not within my role, if it's in my if it's not in my responsibility, who else can I go and share this matter with? And that can get tricky, because if it's not about you, you may or may not be able to do that. So it's such a lesson of learning lesson to figure out how that works in institutions and organizations. And I say that's true no matter what organization or institution you're at. It's an experience. So as a grad student, things are great. I'm learning a lot, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow, and I wanted to be better, because for me, continuing my education was always about being a better researcher. That's what I wanted to do. And I enjoy doing research. I enjoy exploring. I'm enjoying learning about myself and growing in areas in which I didn't know that I could. And I still think there's more to learn. I don't think in talking about my writing retreat experiences that means I've arrived. I think there are more lessons to learn. I'm just at the ground floor of the preliminary proposal and the ground floor of research projects, research project works. So there's lots to learn. But I'm enjoying it, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I hope that whatever it is that you're doing it to the best of your ability, that you have people who care about you, that help you be great, that support you and encourage you. I'm also excited to go to Disco Summit next week. I'm really excited because that's a summit of researchers and participants that I've watched on Zoom, some of which I've never met before, but they study a lot of digital studies work, they do a lot of race work, they do a lot of intersectionality work, they do a lot of internet research and so many other things. And it also has a lot of the scholars that are on my wall of, I want to meet them or see them, and I'm doing my best to be relaxed when I see them and not overwhelm them, because I'm so excited and they're on my wall of great scholars, because I don't know if people have those scholars you want to be like, or emulate, because you're like, they are amazing. And you're like, can my work sound like that when I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing? I want to be that great. And that might be, that might be just the fan me, the nerdy me, the me that loves research, but that's how I feel. It's just like, my research scholar wall is massive. Because I just like the way they think, or like the way that they put that together, like the study that they did. And I'm like, how did you do that? I never tired hearing, tell me how you wrote that. How'd you write this book? How'd you, do this study? I think for me, I'm really trying to repeat experiences over and over again, because the best class that I have taken, well, there are two, the best classes that I have taken as a graduate student were qualitative methods with Dr. Ruben May. And the best parts of that class were also the fact that he brought the researchers that wrote the books that we read to the class the second hour so we could ask them questions. That was amazing. And Dr. Lila Sharif, who taught race and cultural critique, who also brought scholars that wrote the books that we were in and resources that we were reading to the class. And also her ability to synthesize information is a skill that I'm like, can you teach me how to do that like you do it? Because she could take it from theoretical and conceptual down to the everyday in 10 minutes flat. And everybody, no matter where you were or your socioeconomic status, identity, gender, expression, race, would completely understand. And I'm like, now that level, teach me how to do that. Teach me how to do that, because that's amazing. Amazing. And she would do it even if you had no interest in that subject. You still could go out after hearing what she said and be able to talk to anybody about that subject. And I'm like, that's something I think everybody needs to know how to do. How would you explain your interest or explain your work to people who have no idea what that is, or they don't do that? And I think there are many ways in which we do that with librarianship all the time, because I can't count the number of times that when people hear or that I meet, that I tell them I'm a librarian, they talk to me about books. And while I do enjoy books, that's not solely what I do. And that's never been what I did when I entered my career as a librarian. But I understand that that's the meaning that many people hold within the library, is not necessarily the research, it's not necessarily the user services, it's not necessarily the web resources, it's not necessarily the information resources. It's the stories, it's the meaning of the library as a space and place in their life, in their community, and the like. And I get it, because, when I think about what I loved about the library growing up was the bookmobile. But that was because when I was growing up, we did not have a library in my hometown. Not right away. So it was the bookmobile. And then there was a library, because my father was military. There was Fort Gordon's library. I remember going there. Or there was libraries, in Augusta. And then when I went to college, those were between the Fort Gordon Library and going to college. Those were the first two spaces in which I ever even saw Black librarians, because I didn't know Black librarians. When I think of them, I don't know if within my experience of growing up in Augusta and my church experience, if there were librarians at my church. There might have been, but most of I knew heavily teachers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, business owners, hospital workers. I knew a wide array of people, but I don't remember meeting Black librarians until the Fort Gordon Library experience as a child, and then in college, going to my college campus library, and I worked there as a student worker, doing circulation. And I remember there were people going back to school for librarianship, but they were talking about cataloging. And at that particular time, cataloging, describing data, made my eyes glaze over. I don't mean no harm. I was like, no. And that was why initially for me, That's really what I thought initially in circulation. I thought those were the only things that librarians did because that was all I was exposed to. Later, I learned they did way more than that. And so, upon learning that, I went from computer science or information systems to focusing on technology or indoor information systems from the user level by doing my degree in library and information science, because I did information architecture, storyboards, websites for my master's degree, and creating encoded archival descriptors in the basement for special collection files was my first real library job. All right, that's enough. I think I've given you a highlight on a wide array of things. I don't even know if anybody's going to listen for 30 minutes, but I gave it to you. You take care of yourself. Check in next time. Peace. Have a great weekend.